The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council fell silent as Ambassador James Miller walked in. The massive curved walls, lined with seats for over 200 alien species, seemed to close in around him. He noticed how the older races, those who had been spacefaring for millions of years, moved their seats back slightly. They were afraid, not of him personally, but of what he represented. Ambassador Miller, the council leader, spoke, her crystalline form shimmering under the chamber's lights. "We have called this emergency session because we must discuss the ongoing war between the Stellar Alliance and the Dominion." Miller nodded, his gray suit a stark contrast to the colorful and exotic outfits around him. "Earth maintains its neutrality in this conflict," he said, his voice steady. "We have no interest in." "You don't understand." A voice boomed from the upper tiers. An ancient being, looking like a mass of flowing water held in a rough humanoid shape, leaned forward. "We're not asking you to pick a side. We're begging you to stay out of it completely." Miller raised an eyebrow. This was new. Usually, every species wanted Earth's support in some way or another. "I don't understand," he said. "Earth has followed all diplomatic protocols. We haven't." The council leader raised a limb for silence. "Show him," she commanded. The chamber's center filled with holographic images. They showed Earth's military exercises, but from angles Miller had never seen before. Somehow, the council had been watching them. More images appeared: Earth's shipyards, weapon tests, and military bases. "Your species," the council leader continued, "fights differently than any we have ever encountered. You don't follow the normal rules of engagement. You don't build the biggest chips. You don't focus on single, powerful weapons." Another council member, an insectoid being, clicked its mandibles. "You build redundancies. You plan for failure. You expect to lose battles but still win wars. Do you know how terrifying that is?" Miller watched as more images appeared. They showed Earth's history, ancient battles, modern conflicts, and space skirmishes with pirates. Each one highlighted humanity's ability to adapt, to keep fighting even when logic said they should surrender. "The Stellar Alliance and the Dominion," a council leader explained. "They fight like children with new toys. Big ships, flashy weapons, direct confrontations. But your people," she paused, her crystalline form dimming slightly. "Your people fight like you expect to die, yet still win." The water being spoke again. "We've seen your training simulations. Your soldiers practice fighting while hungry, without supplies, with broken equipment. No other species does this. They all train for perfect conditions." Miller felt a chill run down his spine. He understood now. The council wasn't afraid of Earth joining one side. They were afraid of what would happen when humans brought their style of warfare into a conflict that had, until now, been relatively civilized by their standards. "Both the Alliance and Dominion will try to draw you in," the council leader warned. "They'll provoke you, attack your colonies, test your patience. But we beg you, find another way to respond. Because if Earth enters this war—" She didn't finish the sentence. The chamber was silent again. Miller looked at the faces around him. Faces that had seen thousands of years of galactic history. They weren't just afraid. They were terrified. "I'll convey your message to Earth's leadership," Miller said finally. "But I must ask, what makes you so certain we would be decisive?" The insectoid being answered, "Because we've watched you. When other species face defeat, they surrender. When humans face defeat, they become more dangerous. You don't have a word for surrender in combat. You have retreat and regroup, but these always assume you will return to fight again." As Miller left the chamber, he thought about humanity's history. The council was right. Humans had never learned to accept defeat as final. They always came back, adapted, found new ways to fight. And now, with access to advanced technology and space warfare, that trait terrified the galaxy's oldest species. He needed to contact Earth immediately. But deep down, He wondered if it was already too late to prevent what was coming. The United Nations Security Council chamber in New York was unusually tense. Admiral Thomas Ross stood at the podium, his weathered face illuminated by the holographic displays showing various military readiness reports. The room's occupants, representing Earth's most powerful nations, sat in uncomfortable silence. "Ladies and gentlemen," Ross began, his voice grave, "Ambassador Miller's report from the Galactic Council presents us with an unprecedented situation. Both the Stellar Alliance and the Dominion have positioned fleets near our outer colonies. They're not just testing our borders, they're studying us." The British representative leaned forward. "What exactly are they looking for, Admiral?" Ross pressed a button, and new images appeared above the table. They showed alien ships, maintaining what they thought was a safe distance from Earth's sensor range. "They're watching our patrol patterns, our response times, our defensive formations. But what they don't know," he paused, touching another control, "is that we've been watching them too." The hologram shifted to show detailed scans of both alien fleets. Their ships are impressive, massive, powerful, and loaded with advanced weapons. But they have a fundamental weakness. They've never fought anyone who thinks like us. The Chinese representative spoke up, her voice calm but concerned. "Explain." "Their warfare is like a game of chess," Ross continued. "Big pieces, clear rules, direct confrontation. But humanity." He smiled grimly. "We fight like we're playing 1,000 games of chess at once, and we're willing to flip the board if we start losing." The room stirred uncomfortably. Everyone present knew Earth's military doctrine: adapt, overcome, survive. They had developed technologies and strategies that they had kept hidden from their galactic neighbors. "What they don't know," Ross continued, bringing up new images, "is that we've developed our own versions of their technology. But we've done it our way." The displays showed smaller ships, more numerous, more versatile. They build capital ships. We build swarms. They rely on shields. We assume shields will fail and build redundancies. They fight to win. We fight to survive. The Russian representative stood up. "The Council fears us for good reason then. But we must decide. Do we maintain our neutrality, knowing both sides will eventually try to force our hand?" Before Ross could answer, urgent messages appeared on everyone's screens. The American president's face appeared on the main display, looking concerned. "We have a situation. Both the Alliance and the Dominion have sent diplomatic envoys. They're requesting emergency meetings." Ross shared a knowing look with the Security Council members. "They're going to try to court us," he said. "Each side thinks having humanity's support will end the war quickly." He laughed quietly. "They're right about that part. At least." The French representative raised an important point. "If we stay neutral, both sides might attack us anyway, thinking we'll join their opponent. If we join either side, we risk becoming exactly what the Council fears." Ross nodded, pulling up one final display. It showed Earth's complete military capability, including the classified projects only people in this room knew about: the quantum torpedoes that could bypass shields, the stealth ships that could hide in plain sight, the AI battle networks that could adapt to any situation. "We've prepared for this," Ross said firmly. "Since first contact, we knew this day might come. We've built our forces not to match theirs, but to counter them. We don't need the biggest ships or the strongest weapons. We just need to be willing to do what they won't." The Security Council members looked at each other, the weight of the situation heavy in the air. Earth stood at a crossroads. Neutrality might not be possible much longer. But involvement meant unleashing a style of warfare the galaxy had never seen. As they began their deliberations, Ross watched the tactical displays showing the alien fleets near Earth's colonies. They thought they were being subtle, diplomatic. They didn't understand that every move they made was being watched, analyzed, and countered before they even knew they were in check. The real question wasn't whether Earth would join the war. The question was whether the galaxy was ready for what would happen when they did. Captain Lisa Reed stood on the bridge of the Earth defense vessel Thunder, watching as emergency alerts flashed across her screens. The colony of New Haven, home to 50,000 civilians, was under attack. 3 massive Dominion warships had dropped out of hyperspace just minutes ago, claiming they were pursuing pirates. "Status report," she commanded, her voice steady despite the chaos. "Their weapons are hot, Captain," her tactical officer reported. "They're claiming this is a mistake, but their targeting systems are locked onto our civilian centers." Reed's mind raced through her options. The Thunder was officially a patrol vessel, but like all Earth ships, it carried surprises. The Dominion didn't know about the swarm of stealth drones hidden in its hull, or the experimental shield-penetrating missiles. "Ma'am," her communications officer called out, "they're demanding we stand down. They say this is a legitimate military operation, and any interference will be seen as an act of war." Reed smiled grimly. "Send the evacuation signal to the colony." Protocol 7. The bridge crew knew what that meant. While the Dominion ships watched the obvious evacuation ships launching from the surface, the colony's underground bunkers were being activated. They had trained for this. "Dominion vessels," Reed broadcast, "this is a peaceful Earth colony. You have 30 seconds to power down weapons and withdraw." The response was immediate. "Earth vessel, this is Commander Axis of the Dominion. Your species' neutrality is admirable, but this sector harbors enemies of the Dominion. Stand aside." Reed watched her tactical display as the colony's hidden defenses came online. The Dominion ships never bothered looking for underground installations. Their arrogance was typical of the older species. "Thunder actual to all points," Reed said into her command channel. "Execute Splinter Protocol." What happened next would later be studied by military historians throughout the galaxy. The Thunder, seemingly alone against 3 capital ships, split apart like a blooming flower. What the Dominion had thought was a single patrol ship was actually a carrier for 20 smaller attack craft, each armed with Earth's latest weapons. "By the void." The Dominion commander's voice crackled with surprise. "What trickery is this?" Reed didn't bother responding. Her ships moved in patterns that looked chaotic, but were actually carefully planned. Each attack run seemed to fail, but left behind tiny drones that attached to the Dominion ships' hulls. "Their shields are still up," the tactical officer reported, "but the drones are in position." "Now they learn why you don't threaten our colonies," Reed said quietly. "Execute breach protocol." The drones activated simultaneously, creating microscopic holes in the Dominion shields. The holes lasted only milliseconds, but that was enough. Earth's ships fired their real weapons through these gaps, bypassing the supposedly impenetrable defenses. The Dominion ships, their shields still showing full power, suddenly found their internal systems failing. No catastrophic explosions, no dramatic battles, just precision strikes that left them dead in space. "Dominion vessels," Reed broadcast, "your ships have been disabled. Your life support remains functional, as do your distress beacons. Consider this a demonstration of mercy and a warning." In the Galactic Council chamber, the emergency session watched the incident unfold through long-range sensors. The ancient species muttered among themselves. This was exactly what they had feared. Humans didn't fight to destroy. They fought to win. The difference was subtle but terrifying. "We must act," the council leader declared. "The Dominion has violated Earth's neutrality. If we don't contain this now." But it was already too late. Across Earth's territories, military forces were mobilizing. Not in panic, but with practiced precision. They had planned for this day, prepared for this moment. As Captain Reed supervised the capture of the Dominion vessels, she received a simple message from Earth Command. Protocol Omega authorized. The gloves come off. The galaxy was about to learn why the Council had begged to keep Earth out of this war. President Michael Clark stood in the White House Situation Room, surrounded by screens showing the aftermath of the New Haven incident. Reports were coming in from across Earth's territories. The Stellar Alliance was mobilizing, claiming they needed to protect Earth's interests. The Dominion was demanding the return of their captured ships, calling Captain Reed's actions an act of war. "Mr. President," Admiral Ross began, "it's time to show them what we've been hiding." Clark looked at the holographic display, showing Earth's true military strength. For decades, they had maintained a facade of minimal defense capabilities. But beneath that facade, Project Phoenix, Ross said, bringing up new images. 1,000 stealth ships built in underground facilities across Mars. Project Hydra, our drone swarms that can disable any known shield technology. And Project Lazarus, the shipbreakers, Clark finished. These were weapons designed not to destroy ships, but to capture them, to learn from them, to turn them against their former masters. The UN Secretary General spoke up from her screen. "The public is demanding action. The New Haven footage has gone viral. Families being evacuated, children in bunkers. The Dominion miscalculated if they thought this would frighten us into submission." A new alert flashed across the screens. The Galactic Council was calling an emergency session. Ambassador Miller's face appeared on the main display. "Mr. President," Miller reported, "they're offering unprecedented concessions. Technology transfers, trade rights, even seats on the High Council. They're desperate to keep us neutral." Clark walked to the window, looking out at the peaceful Washington evening. "They don't understand, do they? We never wanted this war. We prepared for it because we had to." The room fell silent. Everyone present knew what Earth's entry into the war would mean. It wouldn't be the flashy, honorable combat the galactic community was used to. It would be human warfare, adaptable, resourceful, and utterly terrifying to species that had forgotten how to fight for survival. "Show them," Clark ordered. Ross nodded and sent the command. Across the solar system, hidden facilities began to power up. The facade of Earth's minimal defenses fell away. Sensor stations across the galaxy began reporting strange readings as Earth's true military power revealed itself. In orbit, massive shipyards emerged from their cloaked states. The Dominion and Alliance observers watched in shock as Earth's real fleet came into view. Not the biggest ships, but the most numerous. Not the most powerful weapons, but the most versatile. "Send the message to both the Alliance and Dominion," Clark commanded. Earth's neutrality was not a position of weakness. It was mercy. The Secretary General added, "The Council's worst fears are about to come true. Not because we wanted war, but because they brought it to our homes." As the orders went out, Earth's military machine began to move. Ships appeared from hidden bases across a dozen systems. Defense platforms that had masqueraded as communication relays revealed their true nature. The careful plans of decades began to unfold. In the Galactic Council chamber, the ancient species watched in horror as their sensors revealed the truth. Humanity hadn't been playing at neutrality. They had been preparing. Every trade deal, every technological exchange, every seemingly innocent question about alien military doctrine, it had all been preparation. "Send to all Earth forces," Clark ordered, his voice heavy with the weight of the decision. Authorization code Omega-7 Delta. Rules of engagement are as follows. We fight not for glory, not for territory, but for peace through victory. As the orders went out, Admiral Ross murmured, "Now they learn why the Council feared us. Not because we're cruel, not because we're warlike, but because once we commit to a fight, we don't stop until it's finished." Clark completed the thought. "And we never fight the way they expect us to." The galaxy was about to learn why humanity's definition of warfare was so terrifying to the older species. The gloves were off, and Earth was going to war its way. Commander David Wilson stood on the bridge of the Earth rescue vessel Mercy, watching as hundreds of Stellar Alliance refugee ships filled his tactical display. They were running from a Dominion fleet that had destroyed their colony world. The refugees had done something unprecedented. They'd fled toward Earth space, believing that humans would protect them. "Status report," Wilson commanded, his eyes fixed on the approaching refugee ships. "Sir, we're counting over 300 civilian vessels," his sensor officer reported. "Most are damaged, life support failing on at least 40 of them. And," she paused, "the Dominion fleet is still pursuing." Wilson's jaw tightened. The Dominion was pushing Earth, testing their resolve. These refugees were just an excuse to force a confrontation. "Open a channel to Earth Command," he ordered. Within moments, Admiral Ross's face appeared on his screen. "Commander," Ross said, "I assume you're seeing what we're seeing." "Yes, sir. Request permission to implement rescue protocols." Ross's expression was grim. "Granted. But Commander, this is it. This is the moment they've been waiting for. If we help these refugees, the Dominion will claim we've taken sides." "With respect, sir," Wilson replied. "They made their choice when they attacked New Haven." The Admiral nodded. "Agreed. You have full authorization. Show them how Earth handles rescue operations." Wilson turned to his crew. "Deploy the life shells. All of them." The Mercy's hull opened, releasing thousands of small pod-like devices. The Dominion ships, still pursuing the refugees, paused in confusion. They'd never seen anything like this before. Life shells attaching to refugee ships, the tactical officer reported. "Emergency life support engaging. Beginning mass transportation protocols." What happened next astonished even the Stellar Alliance refugees. The life shells, a human invention born from their obsession with saving lives, created emergency force fields around failing ships. They didn't just provide life support, they could transport entire ship populations in moments. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a message from the Dominion fleet." On screen, the Dominion commander appeared, his alien features twisted in what might have been amusement. "Earth vessel, those refugees are criminals against the Dominion. Stand aside, or we will consider this an act of war." Wilson smiled, not in humor, but in grim determination. "Dominion vessel, this is Commander Wilson. Those refugees are under Earth's protection. If you want them, you'll have to go through us." "You have one ship," the Dominion commander scoffed. "We have a fleet." "Look again," Wilson replied. The Dominion commander's expression changed as his sensors updated. The Mercy wasn't alone anymore. Earth's hidden fleet, the one they'd revealed after the New Haven incident, had arrived. But more importantly, every refugee ship was now surrounded by life shells, protecting them. "This is your only warning," Wilson stated. "Withdraw, or face the consequences." The Dominion ships began powering up their weapons. They still didn't understand. They thought this would be a traditional space battle. Ships firing at ships, shields against shields. "All ships," Wilson commanded, "execute Protocol Omega." The life shells suddenly changed. What had appeared to be simple rescue devices transformed, revealing weapon systems that the galaxy had never seen before. Each shell became a defensive platform, creating a wall of protection around the refugee ships. In the Galactic Council chamber, the ancient species watched in horror. Humans hadn't just prepared for war. They'd prepared for rescue operations on a scale no one had imagined. They'd turned their defensive technology into a weapon, their rescue ships into fortresses. As the Dominion fleet realized their mistake, Wilson sent one final message to Earth Command. "The line has been drawn. They crossed it. Now they learn why humanity's first priority was always saving lives. Because we're equally prepared to end them if we must." The galaxy's worst fear was coming true. Humanity wasn't just entering the war. They were redefining it. Admiral Thomas Ross stood before the combined fleets of Earth, his hologram projected to every ship in the vast armée. Behind him, the massive screen showed their first target, a Dominion fortress world that had been launching attacks on civilian targets. "Today," Ross began, "we show them why the Council feared us. Not because we're cruel, but because we're thorough. Not because we're aggressive, but because we're patient." The fleet was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of massive capital ships, Earth had brought thousands of smaller vessels. Each one was designed to adapt, to change its role mid-battle. The Dominion and Alliance called them shape-shifter ships. They didn't understand that humans had simply built vessels that could fill multiple roles. "Begin Operation Thunderstrike," Ross commanded. The Earth fleet moved in patterns that seemed random to their enemies. There was no glorious charge, no heroic push toward the enemy lines. Instead, the smaller ships began deploying what looked like debris. In the Dominion Command Center, alarms started blaring. "What are these readings?" demanded the Dominion Fleet Commander. "Every piece of debris is moving." What the Dominion saw as debris were actually millions of combat drones, not the simple automated fighters that the galaxy was used to, but true swarm intelligence. Each drone was part of a larger network, learning and adapting as the battle progressed. The Dominion's massive defense platforms opened fire, their energy weapons creating beautiful patterns in space. But the human fleet didn't dodge. Instead, the ships absorbed the energy, their hulls designed to capture and redirect enemy fire. "Sir," a human tactical officer reported to Ross, "Phase 1 complete. The enemy's firing patterns have been analyzed and uploaded to the swarm." Ross nodded. "Execute Phase 2. The debris field suddenly came alive. Millions of drones activated simultaneously, each one targeting a specific weak point in the Dominion defenses. They didn't aim for shields or weapons. They targeted communication arrays, sensor nodes, and cooling systems. In the Galactic Council chamber, the ancient species watched in horror as their worst fears were confirmed. Humans didn't fight to destroy. They fought to disable, to capture, to learn. Every Dominion ship they disabled was an opportunity to study new technology, to adapt it, to improve upon it. "Now they understand," Ross said quietly. "Show them the Lazarus Protocol." The disabled Dominion ships began to power up again, but they weren't responding to their commanders anymore. Earth's technology had infected their systems, turning them against their former masters. It wasn't AI. The galaxy had defenses against that. It was something simpler and more terrifying. Human ingenuity combined with decades of careful planning. "Your species," a council member had once told Ambassador Miller, "doesn't just prepare for war. You prepare for every possible type of war, every scenario, every failure point. Do you understand how terrifying that is to us?" As the battle unfolded, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. Earth's fleet didn't just win. They rewrote the rules of space combat. Ships working in perfect coordination, swarms of drones that adapted to every defense, and technology that could turn enemy vessels against their own fleet. "Send the message," Ross ordered, "to both the Dominion and the Alliance." The message was simple. "This is how Earth fights. We don't want your surrender. We don't want your territory. We want peace, and we will enforce it our way." In the council chamber, the oldest species, the one made of flowing water, spoke quietly. "We warned them. We begged them not to provoke Earth. Now they learn why we feared not Earth's weapons, but Earth's way of thinking." The revelation was complete. The galaxy had thought they understood warfare, but humans had spent their entire history preparing for fights they weren't supposed to win, battles they should have lost. And now, in space, they had brought that same mindset to a level that terrified even the oldest civilizations. Captain Lisa Reed stood on the bridge of the Thunder, now commander of Earth's peacekeeping fleet. 3 months had passed since Earth entered the war. 3 months that had changed the galaxy forever. Both the Dominion and the Stellar Alliance had learned harsh lessons about humanity's approach to warfare. "Status report," she commanded, looking at the holographic display of the galaxy's core worlds. "Peace talks are proceeding on Schedule C, Captain," her executive officer reported. "The Dominion has accepted our terms for the third sector, and the Alliance is withdrawing from disputed territories." Reed nodded, remembering how it had all ended. Not with a massive battle, not with the destruction of fleets, but with something the galaxy found far more terrifying: humanity's efficiency. "Play the Council session recording," she ordered. The main screen lit up with footage from 1 week ago. The Galactic Council chamber was fuller than ever before. Representatives from both the Dominion and Alliance sat in silence as Ambassador Miller addressed them. "You feared Earth's entry into this war," Miller said in the recording. "You were right to fear it, but not for the reasons you thought." The display showed footage from the final days of the war. Earth ships, using their captured Dominion and Alliance technology, had created a network of automated defense platforms throughout contested space. Any ship that fired a weapon would find itself immediately disabled, its crew safe but helpless. "We didn't win through destruction," Miller continued. "We won because we made war impossible to wage." Reed switched off the recording and looked at her tactical display. The galaxy map was different now. Earth's influence had spread not through conquest, but through prevention. Their ships patrolled trade routes, their defense platforms protected civilian worlds, and their technology ensured that no fleet could operate without accountability. "Message from Admiral Ross, Captain," her communications officer announced. Ross appeared on her screen, looking both tired and satisfied. "Captain Reed, the last Dominion holdouts have accepted our peace terms. The Alliance has agreed to our proposed borders. It's done." "Not done, sir," Reed replied. "Just beginning." She was right. Earth had emerged as something the galaxy had never seen before. Not a conquering empire, not a diplomatic federation, but a guardian force. Their ships didn't demand tribute or enforce rules. They simply made it impossible for anyone to start another war. In the Galactic Council chamber, the ancient species had finally understood. Their prophecy of destruction had come true, but not as they'd expected. Humanity hadn't destroyed fleets or burned worlds. They'd destroyed something far more fundamental, the very ability to wage war in the traditional sense. "Incoming transmission from Earth Command," her officer reported. "New orders, Captain." Reed read the orders and smiled. Earth's next phase was beginning. They would share their defensive technology with peaceful worlds, train local forces in their methods, and establish a network of rapid response teams. Not to rule, but to protect. "The Council feared us entering the war," she told her crew. "Now they understand why. We didn't fight for glory or territory. We fought to end fighting itself." In the following weeks, the galaxy began to adjust to the new reality. Earth's methods, once feared, became sought after. Their training academies filled with aliens learning not how to win wars, but how to prevent them. Their technology, designed to protect rather than destroy, became the new standard. The Council's final resolution was perhaps the most ironic of all. They officially appointed Earth as the guardian of galactic peace, acknowledging that the species they had feared most had become the one they needed most. As Captain Reed's ship patrolled the newly peaceful borders, she remembered the Council's original warning about Earth entering the war. They had been right to be afraid, but for the wrong reasons. Humanity hadn't brought endless destruction to the galaxy. They had brought something far more revolutionary, an end to the very concept of traditional warfare. And in doing so, they had changed the galaxy not through fear, but through protection. "Set course for the next patrol sector," Reed ordered. "Let's show them how peace is maintained, Earth style."